This is from Pro Football Focus. One reason each team will or won't make the NFL playoffs. Browns, they say, won't make the playoffs. Reason, tough division. Browns could easily be projected as a playoff team, but all four AFC North teams might just beat up on each other too much for more than two to make the postseason. And I think that's a valid possibility and a valid thing. There isn't a whole lot that separates the Browns, Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers.
No, and if you look at the divisions that get three teams in the playoffs, I mean, it's happened before. It's happened in the North, but that's usually when the Browns were kind of the doormat, right? So everybody gets 2 wins in the division against one team, and it props them up. But if everybody in the North goes 3-3, then it's going to be awfully hard for even 2 teams, let alone 3 teams, to make the playoffs. So I go back to what we were talking about earlier. That's why the in-division games are going to be so important. If you can get that leg up and go 4-2 and maybe start off 2-1 or 3-0, obviously would be perfect. Inside the division, I really think that will go a long way, just because not only is the division tough, but like we talked about, the AFC as a whole is really difficult. You got to find your wins somewhere, and inside the division's a place to find them.
Yeah, and so they have the extra preseason game. That isn't necessarily the advantage that I think it is. I think it's the extra week of practice that gives you the advantage. You can start practice, training camp, a week earlier because you're part of that Hall of Fame game, and you've got to do well in those first 4 games.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I wouldn't expect Kevin Stefanski to have a significant change in how he uses guys in the preseason. I just think philosophically, organizationally, they have a belief that you don't want to see guys get hurt in the preseason. So they play their best players minimal snaps and kind of bubble wrap them for week 1. But I would leave the door open for that being a little different this year, given the early division games, given the early games at home, 4 out of your first 5, given an early bye week even. Maybe you feel like, hey, we can go a little harder on these guys because we have an early bye week. So it's going to be interesting to see how Stefanski handles that. But I think you're right. I mean, the week of practice, it's more important than if they get 10 reps, in the Hall of Fame game, right? Like, I don't think anybody's going to play in the Hall of Fame game anyway, but get my point. That even if they get 10 extra reps in week 2, week 4 of the preseason, that's not going to be as significant. Now, the issue with having an extra week of practice is you have to manage the guys because boredom sets in, frustration sets in with that extra week of training camp.
Yeah, and you don't want them getting beat up as well, without question.